Hello, friends. It's the Carnivore Rabbi here, as always, to meet, pray, and love. Just a couple of days ago, the New York Times had an article about the carnivore diet, and that's rare. The New Yorker had one a couple years ago, and occasionally you see things in Time magazine, but the New York Times is a big deal. When you have an article in the New York Times, you realize something is getting close to mainstream. It's not something that is underground anymore. And the article, predictably, was not very good. Although they interviewed Dr. Baker, they interviewed Lex Fridman, who has a big podcast. The article came to the conclusion, it's supposed to be objective news, but it's not. It suggested that the carnivore diet is really just a fad. It's a weight loss fad, and it's popular now because a couple celebrities promoted it, but it won't be popular for much longer. And that is just absolutely not true. We know that. And why is that not true? The first reason it's not a fad is it's because it's thousands and thousands, perhaps hundreds of thousands of years old. Human beings have always eaten meat. It is, as Dr. Ken Berry constantly says, the proper human diet. A man I'm going to be interviewing on the channel, Mickey Ben-Dor, who's an archaeologist in Israel, has shown pretty conclusively that our ancestors ate meat almost exclusively, and that our stomachs are so acidic because we were scavengers. We not only hunted, we actually ate the remains of animals that were killed by lions and cheetahs and so forth. So we have been eating meat for millions of years. That's hardly a fad. Now you might say, okay, but the idea of only eating meat is itself a fad and will fade. And to that I say, absolutely not. Because do you know anybody who's gone carnivore and has gone back to the standard American diet or a vegan diet and gone carnivore for, let's say, more than a year? Do you know somebody? I really don't. I know people that have who've been carnivore and gone back to, say, keto or animal-based or a low-carb diet, but I don't know anybody who has left the carnivore way of eating after a substantial amount of time in it and then gone back to eating like most people eat. That just doesn't happen because it's the natural human diet. It's the way we are made to eat. And that can't be a fad. And the truth is, carnivore has never been given a chance because it is so countercultural to the way our modern nutrition system works. Our modern nutrition system is based upon these incredibly terrible federal government guidelines that demote meat in favor of carbs and in favor of wheat. And sugar companies and other cookie companies and so forth make billions and billions of dollars off encouraging a carb-heavy diet. So of course, carnivore has never really been given an opportunity to grow and to flourish. There have always been a few carnivores. I did that video about a month ago on the bear, who was probably one of the first long-term carnivores in modern history that wrote about it. But really, there have been very few modern carnivores who've talked about the experience and promoted the experience. But that is changing. That is changing because of social media and the internet. So I think we are entering a period in which we're going to see many more people thriving on the carnivore diet. Now, I don't think it's ever going to become mainstream. I just think it's too anti-establishment. I think it's too countercultural, and I think it's, quite frankly, too hard for many people. Now, we know once you get into it, it gets easier over time, but many people have a hard time giving up their sweets and carbs, especially because we are surrounded. I was driving in to my synagogue the other day and passed, within about 2 minutes, Dunkin' Donuts, Wendy's, McDonald's, Baskin-Robbins. There are so many advertisements for this kind of food, and our brains only have so much willpower. So it is difficult. So I don't think it's ever going to become mainstream, but it is far from a fad. A fad suggests something that is just popular or stylish and not really substantive. The carnivore diet is the opposite. It is extraordinarily substantive. It's built on the real foundations of what gives us strength. So what do you say to counter this notion that it's a fad? I think we just simply keep doing what we're doing. keep showing the results of people who tell and show that they've never felt better and never been healthier than on this way of eating. The proof is in the pudding, as they say, even though we don't eat pudding. The proof is in how the carnivore diet makes us feel, and the results are extraordinary, the opposite of a fad. But take a look at the article. I think in some ways, when it comes to controversial ways of eating, any press is good press. So I'm happy when people are talking about the carnivore diet, and I hope it opens the door for a few more people.